Okay, guys, today I built this URL shortener in Go. Yeah, so we all know what a URL shortener is. It takes a long URL and gives us a short version of that URL. So let me show you a preview of how it is. So yes, this is how it is. The interface looks nice. I tried my best, yeah, to just make it look nice. So let's take an example. So let me see HTTP. Your HTTP. Let me put a link to the GitHub repo of this project, github/radical/URL shortener. URL shortener. Yeah, I think this is github.com/added.com slash. Okay, I think this is. So we just hit this shorten URL, which gives us the short version of. So just copy it and test it out. So yes, which takes us straight to the GitHub repo of this project. So yes, let's go and look at how everything works behind the scene. So this is the project. In my CMD, I have CMD folder. That's where the main.go is. So this will literally initialize the project. This is the internal. So I have the handlers. This is the get URL handler to get the long URL, shorten URL handler to get a shorten URL. And this for my database. Since I'm using MongoDB. So this is my database. And this my utils folder, which I wrote a function which shortens the URL. So yes, there's a function which shortens the URL and just generates a random 60-digit string as the shortened URL. Yes. So let's go into it. Let's see what the main.go does. So here I just initialize, requirement dependencies. Here I'm using handlebars for the template. Yeah, for the view, I'm using handlebars. Yes, I believe most of us know what handlebar is. And for the server rendering, I'm using Fiber. Yes, I like Fiber because it has this similarities with Express, which makes it very simple to understand when you're coming from an Express or Node.js plus Express background. So there's this similarity. So you just sort of just a little tweak of syntax, else like the similarities are mostly just the same. Good. So here I initialize the template engine, which is handlebars. I just require it from my dependencies, which is this one. Sorry, which is this one rather, GitHub/Go Fiber, yes, version 2. Then good. One thing I also like about Fiber is it comes with this built-in dependence. Like most of the middlewares, they are built in, like this helmet like this is built into Fiber. So Fiber comes with it. You don't need to export it differently like we do in Express. That's Windows coming from an Express background. We will know what I'm talking about. Logger, it comes with an inbuilt logger too. So it has this variety of built-in stuffs where when you just require the whole Fiber package, it just comes with everything. It comes with core compression of your headers and your data. It comes with all those stuff. So it's just like a one shop for everything. Yeah, so you don't need to go and be installing them differently. So that's just why I just like to use Fiber. So yeah, I just initialize the Fiber app and set the template engine, which is here views. Yeah, I require the helmet, a middleware which takes care of our headers, logger for login. Yeah, I just initialize my database store over here. Yeah, so this is just the basic get route which renders the home in the views. So let's take a look at it. So we just renders this handlebar template. That's the home. So this one is like when you are trying to map the variables inside the template with the actual values. That's what you call fiber.map. So this app.get, I just get the health, which I send it 200 status to just say that okay, the server is okay. Here, so this way I initialize the shortening of the URL. So it's a post. So when you post to the home route, it calls the new URL shorten handler. Yes, that's so when you make a post to the home route, that's you are making a post to shorten the long URL which you put. So that's over here. So when you make a post to this route, meaning I should receive the long URL, then I'll in turn give you the short version. That's for the post. And when you make a get route, that's what we did here. When we made a get route here, so let's redo it. So we clicking on the short URL, that it makes a get request to our server, which then sends us and redirects us back to the long URL like it did over here. So yes, and both just take the database store as parameters, sort of dependency injection, where I can decide to change the store. I can decide to make it maybe in memory, decide to use a different database. So you just pass them as dependencies, and yeah, it easily also makes it test test testable. Yeah, where I can basically just test the handler and make sure everything is working with maybe a mock database or something. So yeah, and here I just initialize kill signals. This initialize kill signals, which will take care of shutting down the, the server gracefully, which will handle graceful shutting down of the server. That's over here. Yeah. So basically that's just a brief overview of what the fiber, that's what the main.go. Now let's go into the internals and see how everything is happening. So yes, in my handlers, there's the get url.go file. So this is the handler that takes care of getting the URL or redirecting us to our original URL once we make a get request with the short URL. So basically I just create a struct URL store which takes the URL store. Here is a type which also extract the URL store, the URL handler params. Yeah, so that's like it takes the parameter which I've specified that it should be a URL store or a database store. Yes. So I just create a receiver function on this handler, on this struct, or on this struct rather. So what it just does, it just takes the short URL from the params of the string. So it takes the short URL, the value of the short URL from the params. In Fiber, this C context, it literally holds both the value or the if you want to manipulate the objects, sorry, the request and the response. Everything is held in this C, which is the fiber.context. So let's hover over it and it's extract. So we have the app, we have the route, we have the method, the base, the path. So everything concerning both the request and the response, everything is held in this fiber.context. So yeah, so we are just extracting the params, which is so what we call it c.params. So this is just the variable name we have given to it. So but mostly in the docs is C because it's for context C, but you can decide to name it whatever you want. So far as it's referencing this fiber.context struct, you can decide to name it whatever you want. But for simplicity's sake and to see the similarities, you just put a C. So which stands for context.params. So C.params. We take the short URL. So all I just do is call the get URL method on the store. So what it just does is so it will return the URL and or an error. Then I say if error is not null, return the error. So if it returns the URL, we just send a status of redirect, which is 302, then redirect to the URL.long URL. So basically, yes, just a very simple one. Let's take a look at the shortened one too. It's also the same thing. Basically the same syntax. It's just the logic that changes. So let's head over. So function parent shorten URL. It also takes the long URL from the c.form value. And so this one because we are sending a form. Because if we take a look at the form, it is over here. Yeah, it's a form. So it's a form. So we are just taking the value, or yes, the value of this long URL, which is an input. So we are taking the value of this long URL. That's what we are taking here. So all I do is I just call the short URL method, or which is a utils function, which just generates a 6 random string, where I take that as the short URL. Then I send it back to the client. So what I just do is then I store both the URLs, both the long URL and the short URL generated by the short URL function. So what I do is I just attach the host name, that's the host, and then the short URL, such that you can make a GET request to our server. So the host here, you just get it by c.hostname, which gives us localhost dash the port slash then your port number and your port. Good. So that's what this c.hostname does. Then we now attach the short URL to now give us maybe something like this. So this will now be our short URL. So once you put this in your browser, and let's say our server was live, so it will in turn replace this localhost with port with our host name or our website name. Yes, so once you just hit it, it will make a GET request to this our server, then execute this GET URL where it just get the params, then get it from the database, then redirect you to that long URL. So yeah, basically that's what the handler does. Just a very simple Go application. So let's look at the store and how everything is done there. So inside the DB store like this, I have this folder, this file rather, which is get DB collection. So this is where I initialize my connection to my Mongo database, and then I in turn return the collection name or the collection object. So I just return the collection. So I do the connection to the database. I just load the .env file. So if there's no env to just log no env file found. So then I load it. If there is, then we get the Mongo URL from it, and then we connect to the MongoDB database with this, and then basically just return the collection. I set the collection, and I basically just return the collection like I've specified here. So that's what the db.go does. So let's come down to our URL db.go. So yes, so here I just have a struct, which is URL store.struct, which is a collection and is a type of MongoDB.collection. So here function new URL store, which is referencing the store. So what I just do is, which is taking the value of this struct. So here I just return the reference to this store and call the get collection method from this. So I call this, which will give us the collection, because I've specified the collection here to be a Mongo.collection, and we know this, and we know this returns a MongoDB collection. So that's what we're actually doing here, just returning the collection. So yeah, then I just make a receiver function, which is the store URL, and I take both the long string and the short string, and I just call this store.url struct. Let's have a look at that struct, which is this type URL struct. So we have the ID, which is primitive objective ID for MongoDB, our IDs, so that the system will generate the ID for us. We have the long URL, which is string, the short URL, which is also string. And this is my user store.interface, where I just have two methods, which is store URL and get URL. That's what is over here, the store URL and this get URL. So basically, so I just initialize my URL here, reference it to the store.url struct, pass in my ID, my long URL, and my short URL. So the collection it will either return an error, which is if it fails. Yes, so but since we don't want the value, which is mostly like the timestamp or something, once for a created, or is it the ID? It returns the ID of that created object. We don't want the ID. We just want to just create it then. So if you want to check as to whether it was actually created then before you can proceed, that's where you need this. But we just assume that it will automatically insert it for us. So if there's no error, then we just return nil. So that's what I'm saying. So this store will return an error. That's if it's not able to insert it. So that's what it will do here, return the error. So if there's no error, it will just return nil. Yeah. So for the get URL to the same thing, we just take the short URL as our filter to initialize the long URL here. The URL struct here, which is store.url. Then we put in our filter, which is a bson.d. So we say the bson.d, if remember, d is an ordered representation of the bson document. Yes. So basically, so and we just say our key here is the short URL, and the value of our key is a short URL. So we just say collection.find1. Then we pass in our context. It basically takes a context, but since we don't have a context, we just do context to do, and we just pass in the filter. So we should search for a document where the key short URL and the value is the one we passed inside, and just decode it and pass it into the form of our into this form and just return it. So that's what the decode does. Yeah. So if there's no error, if there's an error, it will not return the document, it will return the error. If there's no error, it will return the reference to the document and nil for error. So basically our return state will state either the URL document or an error. So yeah, basically that's just an overview of how everything works. So I'll leave a link to the GitHub repo where you can go and have a look and just see how you can also understand it. Yeah. So I'll just decide to end here. I'll just decide to make it very brief. So you don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and I would like to see the comments you have to say inside the comment section. And yeah, basically, I think that's it. Peace.